No, that lady there. On you go.
Can I say...
Could you tell us who you are and if you represent...
Who I am?
Yes! I beg your pardon, I should have introduced myself. My name is Brian Thornton. I'm Vice Chairman of the County Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Representing can I say how surprised I am, first of all, at the lack of warning about this meeting, the fact that there isn't room for people in here, the fact that there's no microphone, and usually a microphone is passed around for people to ask questions, so it's not really... my question is, when in any manifesto was it mentioned to abolish the Forestry Commission? And when it comes to the consultation, are we being presented with just 5 questions, 5 choices, which we don't want, because none of us want to lose the Forestry Commission? Good point.
Let me see if I can remember them. On the first question, I was very keen, picking up the previous gentleman's point, not having been able to lay out what we were going to do and deal with people's questions, I was quite keen to have a meeting early after we published our consultation proposals, which is what I've done. But as I said in answer to a previous question, I'm very happy to have a further such meeting, and I will do that during, while the consultation process is still underway. So that's the first point. The second point, you're absolutely right, we did we did secure a public address system from a commercial operator that does so. Clearly it is not helpful, but it is not working. And I can only offer, well no, it's not satisfactory, and I can only offer my apologies. But it's not the case that we didn't think about it or attempt to do so. To answer your substantial point about the Forestry Commission, no, there's no plan to abolish the Forestry Commission at all. The plan is that the Forestry Commission's role, it currently has 2 roles. It's the regulator of the forestry sector, so it regulates, if you like, itself and also the private forestry sector. It sets the rules, it has to issue felling licences, and it obviously does very valuable work looking at tree diseases and things like that, which are obviously very in the news at the moment. But it is also obviously a large timber producer itself, and obviously in the forest that it manages, it does deal with delivering the public benefits, the access, the biodiversity. So there's no proposal to abolish the Forestry Commission at all. The proposal is its role would continue to regulate the sector and to do those other things. What it wouldn't do is be a large-scale manager of significant forestry land. But we're not abolishing it at all. It's perfectly clear. And on the jobs point, I mean, clearly if, under the legislation that exists, if the work that it does moves, then there are legal protections for the existing employees that are employed in the forestry commission. I think that down.
I'd like to focus on what you said earlier, Mr. Harper, wanting to do everything you can to protect the Forest of Dean from commercial buyers. And you mentioned charitable trusts as being a way of somehow doing that. Now, personally, I think that's a bit of a red herring because, as we know, charities can very easily go bust, and in times of economic doom and gloom, charities, by their very nature, rely on the philanthropy of others, which is very, very hard to come by when times are hard. And so, therefore, if a charitable trust buys it, goes bust in 5 or 6 years' time, or perhaps sooner, would that not leave the door open to private enterprise to purchase it? Or can you say that there are guarantees that you're putting in place to prevent that?
No, that's a very good question. Gentleman's question. A very good question. The gentleman's question, I will use the microphone now because I'm told it's working. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Gentleman's question is a very good one. I've seen it raised by a number of people, which is if you were to transfer the forest to a charitable trust, and that charitable trust was then to financially fail, what would then happen to the ownership of the forest? A very good point. Clearly that would be about making sure you did the work properly on the transfer. And clearly the government would only have the legal power under the Public Bodies Bill, as amended, to transfer it to a charitable trust or for it to remain in public ownership. So what you would have to do is make sure that if you did move the freehold, then you'd have to make sure if the charity failed, the freehold would revert back to the state, and that would be something that ministers would have to do when they were setting up. The alternative, flagged up in the question that Bruce asked, would be clearly if you weren't transferring the freehold, but that you were either going to transfer it by leasehold or on some sort of management arrangement, then that question obviously about ownership wouldn't arise.
I'm just wondering why you think there is actually a need to transfer it to a charitable trust, because to be honest... To be honest, in my opinion anyway, I think the Forestry Commission are doing a fine job, and is there anything else?
Well, to answer your question, I think I'll take the view that the fact people were clapping that everyone heard what the young lady said about the Forestry Commission. Well, there's two things. The first thing is, and this more applies to the issue in general, which was the issue that was raised by Ian Standing about the conflict between its role as regulator and manager. But really all the consultation is asking is there a better way of doing it? Now, no one's saying the Forestry Commission... hang on. No one's saying the Forestry Commission are dreadful, but it's also not the case that anyone can say, and I don't think they would say themselves, that they're perfect. And I know, having been the MP... Well, having been the MP here, I've had lots of people write to me with lots of issues and concerns about how they think things should be managed. So, and I don't think they themselves would say they're perfect. So part of the consultation is about, is there a better way of doing it? Now, if you think that there isn't, and you think that there's no way that it can be run better, that's absolutely fine. Respond to the consultation and say that, and ministers will listen to that when they're making their decision. Now I'm going to be very bad, Brian, because she's shaking her head. So let me let you come back.
You're saying about the fact that they might not be perfect, but how do you know that a charitable trust would be perfect?
What the government's laid out is a consultation document. It makes it very clear. The government's proposal is subject to consultation, and one of the questions in there actually asks people, do you agree or not with the government's proposal to transfer the ownership or management of heritage forests, like the Forest of Dean and New Forest, to a charitable trust? If you don't think that's a good idea, then say you disagree, and perhaps put some details, there's plenty of spaces in the consultation document, say why you don't think that's right. And ministers will listen.
What do you see as the benefit of a
Listen to the gentleman's question.
Right, this is a technical question about the consultation paper itself, and also about the Forestry Commission. Now, you can be less than nice about the Forestry Commission, but you've stated earlier on that you are going to be relying on them to be the regulatory body and to write the rules as regards the stewardship and management of the forests. It says in the consultation document that their own guidelines will be published sometime this year. Now, how can we make an informed, proper judgment on the outcome of that consultation paper without those figures available from the Forestry Commission, because it makes the rest of the consultation document a complete sham? We cannot respond to that document unless we have those figures. When are we going to get them, please, Mr. Harper?
Right. Let me explain the gentleman's question as I think I understood it, and then please tell me if I haven't got the point. He was saying that in the Forestry Commission's role as a regulator, I think you were saying that they were going to publish later this year the way they...
I'm not saying it, it says it in your...
Well, no, I was just saying. I think you were saying that until you know how they plan to conduct their role as a regulator, you feel that you're not able to respond to the rest of the consultation. Have I got
Not
that?
quite, no.
Right.
If they lay down the rules that say, for instance, for every tree taken out, there has to be a replant of 10, there is no charitable trust in this country will be able to keep up with that sort of figure. They will go bust. And what will happen when the charities go bust? Who will we rely on then to pick up the pieces? Because we won't have a forestry commission, we won't have a charitable trust, and I'm not really sure that we'll have an environment agency that can handle the sort of chaos that this government is planning for the forests of this country.
Thank you for clarifying what you were driving at. So, gentleman's question was, if it's not clear what the forestry arrangements will be in terms of what a forest owner would have to do in terms of their replanting, if they fell trees and so forth, how could someone go for? How could you respond to the consultation? Well, the question is this: it makes it clear in the document that in any of the situations where we're talking about the heritage forest transferring to a charitable trust or leasing commercial things, this is a plan to spread over a decade. It's not all going to happen in 5 minutes. The consultation is asking about whether you think the ideas are good. If you think the ideas are good, ministers will listen to the replies and then we'll set out the process. No one's talking about handing over, if that's what people say they want to do, ownership or management of the Forest of Dean, in 6 months' time. This is a long-term process. It's not something that's going to happen in 5 minutes.
I understand that, but we still need to know when we're going to get those figures, because we can't respond to the consultation paper until we have them.
So that's a good question. I will take that away. I will discuss that with ministers, and I will come back to you. As I said I would at the beginning.
But time is running out.
No, all right, that's a fair point.